All right, so we're back. Jason and moi. 647.
647. Disgusting.
This one's yours. So tell us why you named it that.
I name all my rifles after Tool songs.
Tell us what your rifle is.
So this is a 6x47 with a 24 inch. I forget what we had. 26 inch Brooks barrel.
You wanted 28, and
That's right. That's right.
28. Which tells me in reality you really wanted 26.
Probably.
You're thinking you got anyway.
One 7.5 twist. We're shooting Burger 6mm, 109 grain long range hybrids. Using Vitavori 150, Federal 205 match, but for the AR.
Explain
so
that
not the standard gold medal 205 match primers, but they're specifically designed with a harder cup for AR platform.
Oh,
so
what are they called? Just 205?
205 Mars match AR.
Okay.
Primers, small rifle primers, and not using Lapua brass, using Alpha Munitions. They're 6.5, 47 brass, neck down to 6.
Oh, so you didn't get 647. Okay.
No, they like.
Because they make a 647, right?
No,
they don't.
No, I thought they did too, but like so. Now the story behind that, like I've had this brass since prior to working for you, because I was going to go to a 6mm, and I kept making jokes about, oh yeah, I'm doing 6 GT. I had already.
You wanted a 6 GT.
No, I just like the Gay Tiger.
You could have called this one 6x40 or 6x47 Gay Tiger.
Oh, I should have.
I mean, hell, it's close enough.
But so there's what we're working with on this.
All right. So the barrel is the Brooks.
Correct. Action is impact precision.
You went with an impact?
Action, short action.
And chassis. That's where it gets interesting.
Can't use my favorite KRG chassis because the impact precision uses a hanger, and this is my first action with a hanger. Tried to modify my X-ray chassis and just how the trigger guard, I have to shave right where that bolt is, so it's just not feasible to use it. So we had Oryx chassis laying around. So I brought my action in one day just to see, and guess what? It fit.
It fit. Yeah, the Oryx actually. So the Oryx we had for the 6.5 Needs More series.
Correct.
Before the 6.5 Needs More was a thing. And so we had them.
Yep.
And you decided to try one, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it fits.
It fits.
I'm gonna use one.
Gonna rock it until my chassis comes in, and presently surprised. I did not have high expectations.
Dude, that thing surprised me.
It was
because it's a budget chassis, right?
It's a $450 chassis with the only thing adjustable on it is the length of pull and the cheek riser. That's it. It's like I had to fabricate because at the time I didn't know anything about the Oryx. I didn't know that they had their own Arca rail for it. Mm-hmm. But the way that the chassis is, there's a little bend in it. So I had spare Arca rails around. I cut one, attached it so I could use a bipod, and went with it.
And then now we have Arca rails on the Oryx.
We have Arca rails on the Oryx.
Okay, so all that just so you guys know that this is everything we used in this. That's what he used
throughout.
Everything was shot off of an Oryx chassis.
Everything.
Okay. All right. So let's go look at the results. So again, here it is. Disgustipated. So it says Burger 109 at 2.017.
So these numbers right here are the final. Like this is
right.
This is what it's shooting right here. So that's the base to ogive, my seating depth.
So you went with you initially measured jam.
I did.
So step number 1, master jam. And what was jam and what was jam minus 20? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't remember. We're gonna have to.
All right, we'll
go to the next slide. It will probably be on there. But it was long.
Okay. I'm on the wrong screen. I think. How do I go to the next slide? What did I do? Maybe click. There it is.
Oh, there we go. All right. This is just a breakdown of what we're going to cover. So this is exactly how the load development went. Initial powder tests, bullet seeding, fine powder, primer sheeting depth, tuner, and then muzzle velocity truing.
Yeah. So this is just the, like you said, the steps. Hang on, I'm fixing my mic over here. Okay. So initial powder test. So the reason you went within 150 is because that's what I use in my 647.
Yep, it's known.
So it was a lot easier just zero in on that.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, I see it now. So yeah, jam was 2.047. I backed it off 200s, 20.
No, 200s or no 20,000.
20 thousandths. And started at, so for all the testing up to the seeding depth, it's at 2.027.
Okay. Now my load on my 647 is 35.7.
35.7.
At 29.75. Mm-hmm. Brooks barrel.
Same barrel.
Well, yeah, exact same barrel. They're brothers.
Same reamer, same chamber.
Same reamer, same everything. Same length. But mine is 35.7 at 29.75, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But I am using different primers also. I'm using what am I using? 205s?
Oh yeah, you're using 205.
Yeah, 205s. And you're using
205s, but a different version.
Okay, so same primer, just different. So you tried.
I tried BR4s and then the GMs. Honestly, I expected the BR4s to. I was kind of like, I want to use the BR4s. But as you'll see,
well, there's a reason I use 205s.
Yeah.
And
then all the tests were done on once fired brass.
Okay.
Well,
so temperature, what is 101? What does that mean?
Just hot.
Welcome to Texas.
Yep. So, like, I log everything, especially with, weather, right? Because that's, we try to eliminate as many variables as we can. Mm-hmm. But you can't, you can't eliminate the human variable. Well,
right.
You can, but then you got no trigger puller. But, our biggest, as a shooter, our biggest ability is to master the weather, master the winds, the conditions. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to, you have to master them. Well, you have to keep track of what you're shooting at because that's going to develop patterns.
Right.
So density altitude is the biggest factor. But that heat, temperature, relative humidity, station pressure, they all determine density altitude.
And you're using your
the Kestrel drop.
Kestrel drop for to gather this data.
Yep.
Okay. God, look at the density altitude.
Yeah.
I remember
in Colorado.
Colorado's the other way, ain't it?
No, it's
higher.
The higher density altitude, less pressure, less stuff to fly through for the bullet. The bullet shoots better.
It shoots flatter.
Yep, shoots flatter. The lower the altitude, the denser the air. So
I remember when John was here. F-class John, you had your weather station and he saw it in the 2000. He couldn't believe it. He never seen anything like that. I'm like, oh, it gets way higher than that.
Way.
Anyway, so that's that's what you were dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the initial powder test.
So this is with the federal primers. Just did the powder selection, and we already talked about that, but I tried to go, I think I went a grain higher than what you were running and 2 grains below.
Yeah, because mine is a pretty light load.
Yep.
And I explained that to you.
And then I did see, like, I got to now this is like 2 different pieces of brass, right? But if we look at your muzzle velocity, which was 29.75 around there, it's 35.5.
Right.
So I wasn't expecting that, because I know like Alpha Munitions has a reputation, not a bad thing, but of having thicker brass. So you have less case capacity.
Right.
But your load's 35.6 at 29.75, and this is saying I shot 29.77 at 35.5.
Yeah.
So
So I see a note here around that, because between 35.3 and 35.5.
Yep.
So you could have went with 35.4 here.
Could have.
Ended up pretty close to where I'm at, but it's pretty narrow. It's kind of weird down here. Around 33, 34, 1, 34, 3, 33, 9. It kind of dips.
It does.
And then it jumps up again, and then it continues a nice, even incline, and then it flattens out slightly there at 35.3 to 35.5, and then it just kind of gets weird up there again. Okay, so that was the BR Force.
No, this is a Federal.
This is the Federal.
Yep.
Now, we need to touch real quick on the fact that you went a grain higher than my load. You can do that. However, you got to be aware, like, hey, the minute you see pressure signs, back it off.
And that's I tried to load to pressure. Like I was going to stop it.
Right,
soon.
but it just needs, people need to be careful. Now, let's touch on pressure signs. What do they look like?
So hard bolt opening, I think, is the biggest one.
That's the big one.
That's the one that you really need to pay attention to. That there should be some effort, but it's noticeable. Struggle. But you will notice hard bolt lifting. And then I think the big one, like a lot of people say, oh, well, I had, swipe marks on my brass. Well, you can get swipe marks with a normal load. If it's hotter or like temperature-wise, if you have a plunger-style ejector and stuff, on a normal load, that can leave marks on the brass. So I don't like to go off of that because it's false. You can get false positives, I should say.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're flowing the brass inside of the ejector, it's pressure. It
is pressure.
You just got to be careful. Sometimes it's a false positive, but you just got to be aware. I mean, when you're going
way too high.
If you're going above, and you feel that, I think at that point it's a positive.
Positive. I don't. With the Federals, I didn't see any true pressure. I think at 36.5, I had a little bit of a hard bolt where it's like, okay, kind of get me. I would have shot the next load, and I probably had that one would have been like, yeah, nope, done.
Right. Well, yeah, you just have to be aware of what you're doing. Okay. This is the BR Force.
BR Force.
So now I just got to look at something right quick. So let's just look at 35.5, 29.77 with 205s, 35.5, 29.95.
20 feet.
So, this is something that a lot of people think, and I've seen this many times, they go, well, this powder charge shoots good.
Yeah.
No. You can change primer, seating depth. Hell, if you had a different freebore, and that's why people ask all the time online, what's your load? Nope, don't. I'm not gonna give you any of that, because what's safe in my gun may not be in yours.
Absolutely.
And even if here's the main thing I don't give people my load is, if I give them my load that shoots great, they see like, oh, that shoots amazing. I'm afraid they're gonna stick to that load as the load, and
it could be something better.
It could be something better, and I think I'm hurting them more by sharing the load than by not sharing it. Because by not sharing it, it forces them to go look
absolutely
for the load themselves, which in turn is going to really show them the real load, assuming they know how to load, right? They follow a process kind of like we do. Now, is this the only way? No, but this is a way that has worked for me.
That works,
and you've adopted it, and we'll see if it worked for you. Okay, so
go to the next slide. There we go. So the biggest thing here, this is why I did not because both these graphs here, they show just a nice climb, steady climb. But the gold match, the Federals, showed several nodes. 1 3 grain, or 1 3 node span, and 2 2 charge weight spans. This one is just too steady. Nothing. I mean, if you look at the spacing, it's plus 23, minus 11, plus 22, plus 9, 19, 20, 15, 14, and then at 35, 5 and 35, 7, you got a plus. Like the span is just nothing. Did not like it.
It appears that it finally starts flattening out up at the top.
At the top.
So this is a great example of what are you using it for. Now, if this was a hunting rifle where you need energy, I would probably pick this primer around 36.3, which would be about 50 feet per second. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And then you can hammer down. This one shows, the other one, at 30-50, it's, well, you never got there, but, up there, it doesn't seem very good. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So this is a great example of, hey, different primers, different powders. You can modify a rifle or tune it to your needs. You can change a primer and and move that node and go, you know what? This for hunting, I use these primers, and for match, I use these for multiple reasons, right? Because whenever you're doing hunting, you're not worried so much about breast life as you are with match loads.
Correct.
Right? But anyway, so you decided to go with the 205s.
Did.
So here we go. Oh, you went with 34.1?
34.1. And the reason why is a nice flat node. And I wasn't going for speed here. This is going to be my competition rifle. I wanted something that had a range in the node. Okay. And so if you're looking at this, it's 34.1.
Okay.
So with this right here, I decided that I shot the test on a target. Why? And this was the big factor. This is why I went with Federal too. So you look at the 0, that was just new, not a new optic, but putting it on a new action. I wanted to hit where I was aiming.
Right.
So I did shoot the powder test on a target, shot it at 100 yards. But look at the grouping of the gold match compared to the BR4s over that range.
Yeah, it seems more consistent.
So that actually helped play into weighing, picking that primer for this.
Okay. Yeah, the groups just look, the entire group looks better. So you picked 34.1, and then you went on to bullet sitting depth.
Sure did.
You went from, so jam was 2.47, you backed off 20 to 2.027, and then you went from there to 1.991 in 3,000 increments.
Yep.
Right? All right. Here we go. So, group number 1 is
starting lowest to, so starting at 19.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, right there, let's touch on that right quick. I always like doing it that way. You select your range, and then you start with the shortest one, and then you work your way up. The reason for that is, at some point, you're going to find your node, right? when you find it, let's just say he was 3 groups in and he finds his node, right? And then he keeps going and it starts to open up again. If he's happy, guess what? All the others are longer than your seating depth. Well, now you can just seat all the others to this seating depth and you're done. You didn't waste all that ammo. Whereas if you do the other way, you select your range and you start testing longest to shortest, and the same happens. Well, now the rest of that ammo that you have left over is now you got to pull the bullets or do something weird with it. So, pro tip.
Pro tip.
All right. So, 1991. I'm going to just call it 1991.
1991.
That looks pretty good.
Yep.
But then 94 kind of looks ugly, and 97 gets uglier, and 2000 gets worse. Y2K gets really bad.
Y2K, man.
A lot of people don't know what Y2K is nowadays.
Yeah, that's true.
Strange. Then 2003 starts to come together. 2006 still together. 2009 ugly. 12
and we notice a shift.
Yep,
like
a shift.
Like, so the point of aim for this is the lower right quadrant, if you will, of that. So we got the tiny little circle in the center, and yep. So
are you aiming here?
I was aiming putting
here,
like right,
lower,
right there. Now just come diagonally up to the center, and I was placing my dot right there because it would fill in that gap, and I could. You get what I'm saying? So that was my point of aim the whole time.
Why did you aim at the center?
Oh, it's a visual reference.
Okay,
if
it works for you. Okay, so back to
2009.
2009.
It
kind of it's yucky.
Yep.
12
kind of coming together,
and then 15 comes together.
It does.
18 comes together, and then 21 kind of gets ugly again.
Starts falling apart.
24 gets really ugly.
Yep.
And 27 starts to go flat. So, yeah, I mean, just looking at these groups, I would probably select somewhere in the 2015 to 2019. Let me see. No, 2018. Yep. Those two I like what they look like. These up here, 2003, 2006. They're not super tight, but they're consistent. So that I would say that's one little node here. See, the reason I like 215 because even 2012 is right there.
Yep.
So I think this is I guess the forgiving node.
And that's what I picked.
Perfect. So, okay, without going now, I haven't looked at these results purposely. Because I want to see what you did versus what I would have done, and but yeah, so far so good. Now,
so going back to why I selected
before
range.
we go there, let me get my thought out as far as 2015. See, 2012 starts to open up. So 2018 is the best. Well, it's pretty good. So this is mainly the main node. This one is kind of, let's say, outside the node, but it's still pretty good. So I would go like 2.017, stay 1,000 away from 2018, just to allow me some variance on the seating die or seating depth consistency, because we know it's still good. So you go to the longest one, and back off about 1,000. Just a lot of people say, well, you got to put it in the middle. Well, no, not necessarily. Right. You just want to give yourself the most forgiving window. So, why did you pick that?
So, like the consistency in the groups, and you're looking, 0.295, 0.229, and then 0.289, and then going further into the group size, looking at the height. At the 2.012, it was 0.27 of a height, then 0.222 of a height, and then 0.132, and that was the 2.018 seating depth.
Right.
So it's just this consistency in the groups and where they were placed. It's like, okay, that's my node. Okay. I got a pretty stable.
Yeah. Okay. So this is your analysis of your. Is this is the chronograph data?
This is the chronograph data.
And now 2018, 2015. This is strange, ain't it? They were the best groups, but they have the highest ES.
Yep.
Or some of the, well, not completely the highest, but.
Strange how that works, huh?
Well, you got to believe the target.
Yep. I mean, yeah, like I could have picked 2021 SD of 2.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look around it, though,
it's not stable.
Yeah, and let's go look at the group 2021. Ugh, ugly.
And then, but you look at the next one higher, and I mean, it really falls apart.
Oh yeah, but you know, even if you're just looking at the SD numbers or ES, yeah, it's super small there. But if you go on each side of it, you know, one side is 15, the other side is 10. But anyway, so you went with 2.017. Okay, and here's the graph. I love the graph.
I do too.
It's so easy to see.
I mean, and this really makes why I picked that node stand out, because just look at that valley right there.
Yeah, this one right here.
Yep.
It's just so easy to, like, when you see this, you're like, oh, okay, it's obvious. And then you went on to find powder test.
Sure did.
Right. So you had selected 34.1.
Yep.
So now you're gonna go from 33.6 to 34.6. 5/10 on each side in 1/10 increments. Same thing at 2.017. Federal at flush. Now define flush. What
that is like.
Is it flush meaning touching the bottom, or flush with the?
No, flush with the case head.
Okay. So the weather. Oh, look at that, 81 degrees.
And that must have been. Look at. I mean, I got up at like the break of dawn for this. 7:39. Oh.
Okay.
So this is just the raw, right here. This is just the target, and look at the groups. These are all 5 round or 4 round. I think 4 rounds.
Yeah. Okay. Can I just look at the graph?
Just go to the graph.
Okay, let's look at the ES real quick. It's still kind of up there, except for 33.9, 34.
Look at 34.5.
Yeah, I saw that. It's pretty small. But explain what you're looking at and what you picked and why.
So there's, we've had discussions on this. Like, what are you looking at in the fine powder test? Do you want low numbers, or do you want small groups?
Okay. Let's back up right quick, because this is bothering me in my head. This flush with the head I would never do a test there. I would get it maybe touching the bottom, because flush, more likely that primer's not seated all the way, right?
Like there's room for that primer to move.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, I would never have done it there.
The reason why I did it, because we had this when I did the 6BR. I'm against flush, and I said that when we did the review of the 6BR, because one, you're proud with that case head. I mean, if there's any protrusion of that firing pin, it's able to set that round off.
Right.
There's no like safety or anything in that. But we had some members say, well, I think you should test to flush. Oh, cool. Here's flush.
Yeah.
It's done. I'll never do it again.
I just think even for initial test, you need to maybe test flush one. But anyway,
and this is where
we'll see what it looks like on the primer sitting depth.
Yeah, we will. But this is where I think, like I'm not convinced. The way that I'm doing these tests, like we do the seating depth, I'm almost thinking that after the seeding depth, before doing fine powder, is where we should be doing the primer test.
Okay.
But then I'm torn on it because it's like, I don't know.
It's
It's
valid.
a whole ignition, right? Like before we do the fine powder, because that's what we're timing this ignition system, right? So I think maybe primer should be done right after seeding, or like if you.
Well,
if you decide
here's
to
something
skip.
we can do. You can just go back to your 34.1, do another primer seeding depth test,
Yep.
and then do your final. And
Powder
we can
test.
compare it to this
Oh, definitely.
and see if
Hell
anything
yeah.
changes.
Yep.
I
Sure
think
can.
that's worth doing. And again, this is one of those things that's it's our ongoing search for the perfect process, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so far, so good.
Now I will. So why I picked 33.7? Because if you look, you got 34.5 sitting with a nice ES and SD and shooting a pretty decent muzzle velocity to 29.32. But I did not like the SD to the left of it. I did not like the SD the variance in muzzle velocity with it. Now, I'm kind of judging everything on this. I had a pretty decent group size and SD, and the groups around it were similar. That's why I picked 33.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty good. 33 what?
7.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the relation of the groups, point of impact, and everything. I mean, I'm looking at everything.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can. I guarantee you that I can go load at 34.5 and tune it and be stable.
Right.
Guarantee you. But I can be sloppy now, and I still have the same. I don't want to be sloppy, but if I have variance, if I mess up my reloading somehow, I have built-in comfort, just like the seating depth, just like everything else. I know I'm going to be accurate and precise because the groups tell me I can be.
Right. Good. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for just some leeway, right? Okay. On to primer seating depth.
Yep.
This is you tested from 0 to 12 negative to negative 12
Below flush.
in 1,000th increments. Why 1,000?
Because you can see a difference.
Okay. All right. Temperature. Look at this. 77. What are you doing?
Shooting early in the morning.
All right.
Well, hey, go back to that real quick because I know this is about primers. But look, 77.7. Look at the temperature, relative humidity, station pressure, and then look at the density altitude. You know, we're just below 2,000 feet, and you may not think 200 feet difference is much, but it is. And that's just, I mean, we're looking at 5 degrees rise, a decrease in humidity. Station pressure pretty much stayed the same, but look at how much our altitude changed, 300 feet. If you don't think that makes a difference, you got to log this stuff.
Yeah. Yep. It's a big difference. Okay. So, Fowlers. And this is done at what distance?
400,
So 450 something,
450
right?
something,
The closest.
456, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And this is Fowlers.
This is just Fowlers, just getting dirty.
Well, that's not too bad.
Not 1.8 inch group height.
That's pretty good.
Now, so like how I do these primer tests at distance, I do, I'm more worried about the vertical displacement over the horizontal. So I am not holding for wind. If I catch it on my Fowlers, then like, okay, they're all hitting here. I'm going to hold here. But once I start the test, that's where I'm holding.
Just hold it.
Period.
Like if you're doing it at 100,
Yep.
just hold same place. Okay. 0.
0.
That ain't too shabby.
That's not. That's not. I mean, as a 2-inch group at 456 yards.
Yeah. All right. 1. Still pretty good. 2-inch group, 1.8. 2. This is 2000s or -2. Now, at what point do you actually touch the bottom of the cup or the primer pocket? Do you know?
I want to say it was like it's about 9 to 10 thousandths is where I'm actually smushed.
Not smushed, but I'm trying to, where the primer actually touches, just barely touches.
I think that's at 8 thousandths below flush.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems like a lot. Anyway, holy smokes!
Now
Now
we start
real.
getting.
So, this is 3 below flush.
Yep.
That's a 1.1 inch group.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, well, maybe it was a fluke, but so 4,000 below. That's a 1.2 inch group.
Mm-hmm.
Half inch wide. This one is 1 inch wide. Holy smokes. 1.6 inch groups. This is 5. And now it starts to get ugly.
Mm-hmm.
6, 7, 8 starts to come in again. 9. It's flat, but it's wide.
Mm-hmm.
This one's gotta start to get bigger. Now, 11.
This is wind.
Well, yes and no.
That's not wind.
Yeah, well, it's fine to assume that it's wind, and when you're getting that small, yeah, it's a good assumption.
No, like,
But still, look at this one. How come the better ones didn't have wind? You know what I mean?
exactly.
It's easy or it's good to say it's wind or at least be aware of it. But man, I've seen it where the right load, it'll just all of a sudden not have any wind.
Right.
It'll shoot tiny, just like you're seeing here. I mean, like I said, 3 and 4. They, 4 had 0 wind. I mean, it's half an inch wide. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's fine to say it's wind, but ultimately you got to go with a better one.
Oh yeah.
So I'm assuming you went with, if I had to guess. So 2 is crappy, 3 is good, 4 is excellent, 5 is still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So, 2 is ugly. I probably would have been with 4 just to give myself some.
Go to 5 again. I forget what I picked, to be honest.
5
with
is pretty good.
Try it. Go up to 7. For some reason I think I picked 7. I'm not sure why.
6, 7.
No,
Hope
I
you didn't
didn't
pick
pick
7.
7 off that.
Anyway, again, I would have picked 4 just because there's a variance in the seater, right? In seating, you cannot. If I could seat it to 1,000th precision every time,
Yeah.
well, I would have picked 4 anyway.
I mean, go back to 3. I think 3 vertically 3.
Yeah, 3 is
was the
flatter,
smallest.
but look at 2, and it's very easy to miss that seating depth by 1,000, and that's what I'm worried about. So I would have picked 4 because if I miss it short, I'm at 3.
Mm-hmm.
If I miss it too deep, which is harder to do, but you're at 5, it's still pretty good.
Still pretty good.
Okay, let's see what you picked. It's been that long ago, you don't even remember.
I don't.
Okay, let's look at the numbers. This is interesting. 3 and 5, they all seem fairly consistent.
They do.
7 has 33. Let's go look at 7. Yeah,
It's ugly.
ugly. Let's go look at the other one.
I think I picked 3 on
12.
I can't remember.
12 has an ES of 28.
Yep.
And it's look at that group.
But I mean, you look at our little node there, right? 3, 4, 5. That's what we're saying. The node, and even 6 thousandths below flush. The SD and ES, the rounds liking that whole combination is
it's all
stable.
5. It's all 5 all the way across. 5 SD.
And you look at, we're looking at 280 for muzzle velocities. So we're going from 2846, 2853, 2851, 2850. That's pretty stable throughout that whole range right there.
Right. And is this the group size or what is this?
That's the group size based off the depth.
Yeah. See, this is 3, 4, 5. So I'm saying I would have picked 40 just because it's in the middle. But yeah, I mean, how can you dispute it, right?
I want to say I picked 7, but I think I'm confusing it with the BR. I think I chose 7 for the BR.
10-round rapid.
This was just fire forming. I still had brass to fire form, so I just launched some rounds, went as fast as I could.
That ain't too bad. 3.3 inch group. At 450 yards.
Right.
Not too shabby. Missed the wind quite a bit, though.
I'm good.
Tuner test. Oh, that's right. We still haven't done the tuner test.
Now, this is saying I sat it at 8,000 feet. What was 8? Go to 8. Oh, look at the SD on 8. That's why. 1 inch height. I know why I picked 8.
Why?
Because of the SD.
Oh, you got sucked in by the SD. No. Okay, well. Where's 8? Yeah. Okay. Did you not look at the graph? 8.5 would have been.
If I could seat 8.5.
Oh. Okay. So 8. 33.7. So this is a tuner test?
Yep.
So you really don't want... See, this shows me right here that tuner test, tuner 2 has a ES of 40.
Yeah, see this. So this
4.
is. Yeah, I'm not understanding
how
this
does a
because it's
tuner
only
change?
2 shots. You know.
Yeah, but I don't see how tuner can change.
No.
Now we're back
now
up
look at the
101
temperature.
degrees.
Yep.
Okay.
But targets tell the tale.
0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12, and 14. Look at 16. But then it goes ugly again.
Ugly.
So 10 through 16 look pretty respectable.
Mm-hmm.
What did you pick?
4.
What?
Yep. This is based off of group size only. I think that had the smallest height.
We can't. 16. Look at 16.
6 has a pretty... Where did...
Were you drinking when you did this?
Might have been. I did not pick 16 because 14, like 12 and 14 seemed to come apart, and I didn't like the variance between, like how 12 has a horizontal variance and 14 has a vertical, and it's like I'm nitpicking, you know, it's totally nitpicking.
I mean,
But now if you also look, if you look at the cyclic, like 2 and like you can see the groups are coming together 2, 4, 6, and then they fall apart, and then you start looking like this is a churn out. This is exactly a churn out at 10, 12, 14, or you know, or in 2, 4, or 12, 14, 16.
Right.
So it's in my tuning.
So tuner test.
And it's just the consistency in that and 2, 4, and 6 compared to 12, 14, 16. I mean, yep.
Once you graph it, it looks different.
Yep. And I mean, that's the graphs are paying off for themselves right now, you know. But I'm looking at, you know, those numbers of 0.164, 0.169, 0.134 compared to the variance that I'm getting at with 12, 14, and 16.
This is your target test.
Yep. So this right here is just shooting the groups, making sure that my dials are dialing what they're supposed to dial, and everything you know is rocking on my scope. And I had, you know, my expected POI was 25.193. I shot at 24.995, and I dialed 7 mils on my scope. So it gave me a scope correction factor of 7 thousandths. 8 thousandths, just round up 8 thousandths. I can't correct for that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So
this is the test.
Yep. It's hard to get a 40-inch target picture.
Yeah.
These targets are big. So
yeah. So here's the first group.
Yep.
And they just dial up.
7 mils.
And just shoot it again.
Shoot it.
I mean, that's pretty straight.
Yep. And then once again, I like doing. I always do. If I haven't done a tall target test before I true out, I'll do a tall target test, because if you do have errors in your scope, shooting, trying to true your muzzle velocity with errors in your scope, you're chasing your tail. You have to account for that. Because if I say, like, if my scope, if I'm supposed to dial 7 mils, but I'm only dialing 6.5, then I have half a mil error, and then I go to true my muzzle velocity. Well, I have a built-in half mil error.
Right. Makes sense.
So here's now I'm truing at 1,089.
Now, why did you pick 1,089?
Because that's Mach 1.2. I'm well.
Explain that.
So that puts me well into supersonic, where I'm not, the bullet's slowing down, but it's still true supersonic. None of the transonic waves are hitting it, robbing it, or anything like that. It's stable, and it's its most stable supersonic flight before it goes into transonic flight, and then starts, having the shock waves and everything hit it, and where muzzle velocity just starts falling off.
So that's different for every rifle, right?
Correct.
Or not every single one of them, but for example, it'd be different for 308.
308. I mean, you're looking at. I think I trued that at 750 yards.
So how do you figure that out? Is the question.
The Kestrel. Well, so if you have a ballistic app, easy button, right? Mm-hmm. Most ballistic apps will do it. But you look at what you find what Mach is, which is, I think, 1061 plus the temperature of the day. So that's Mach. And then you want Mach 0.2, so add 20% to that. That puts you for your muzzle velocity, right? So muzzle velocity, Mach is like 1061, 1064, something like that, plus the temperature of the day. So if it's 100.
So let's just say 1150.
1150.
Okay.
So that's Mach 1.
Right. So you look at the ballistic table at what distance the bullet is going at that 1150?
Yeah. Probably about like a little bit. You want it a little bit faster than that.
1200?
Yeah, 1200.
1300. So somewhere in that vicinity.
Yep.
So that's how you figure that out.
Yep.
So Mach 1.2.
So, remaining muzzle velocity. And then it'll tell you the distance that bullet's at.
Okay. All right. So once you do that, then that's where you true up your
muzzle velocity.
What that means is obviously you have it dead on at 100.
Yep. And
then you shoot at 1,089, which you did in this case. Right? What's this black screen?
So I have this. So this is set up. There's actually the ability to shoot 10 groups, but I only needed to shoot 4. So that makes me happy. So I just black out the rest. You don't need to see it. There's nothing there. There's no information. It's a bunch of zeros.
I see. So this right here is he just blocked that out.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Okay. So you shot 4 groups.
Yep.
Explain this. This is your velocity.
That's the velocities that I'm shooting. So group 1, now I did this over the E target, shot 2 groups over E target, and then shot 2 groups because we have that 60% IPSC right next to it, and then 2 groups on that. So the first group was my actual truing group because I shot it at the E target, and we'll see that target here. Then group 2 was just like confirmation, make sure it wasn't a fluke, and then shooting still.
Okay, so we're looking at the targets here.
Yep. So the IPSC target, there's my first 2 shots were at that in the head. The higher, there's actually 2 shots right there.
That's 2 shots.
So I saw that, and then I milled the difference, which was 0.1.
Okay.
Took it off my rifle, fired the next 2 shots.
So that's these right here?
And then fired a third one and messed it up. So.
Okay. That's probably that 8,000 seating depth that you picked.
Probably caused the flyer.
Okay, and this is
This is the E-Target. This is a 6 millimeter at 1,089 yards, shooting a 4-inch group.
yeah, that ain't too bad, ain't it?
No. And this showed the math on this, 0.1 mil. I was 0.1 mil high, so I was actually shooting faster than what I thought.
Okay.
By 10 feet per second, 20, 15,
Okay.
something like that.
At that point, are you shooting faster? What does that mean? The bullet has a different, a better BC than advertised.
So, yeah. See, so this is what is it?
Yeah.
Am I adjusting my?
What do you do?
Is my BC off or is my muzzle velocity off? Now I used a custom drag model for this, so that means it's been shot through Applied Ballistics Lab Radar, and that's the BC I'm using. I have fairly good confidence that that's a straight up BC. I don't have to worry about it. Happens to be 3. On the box, it's 2.92 for the BC on these bullets.
Right.
And I think we're running 3 on yours too. Like all the calculations we've done, the truing and everything, it's coming back to 3 for the BC.
So you just had to adjust your speed slightly, and
yeah, I mean, I put it now. If we want to adjust our BC, then we shoot further out to where we're in transonic and subsonic speeds, and adjust our drag model instead of our muzzle velocity, and that will tell us if our BC is off or not. You can do muzzle velocity, you can do BC if you want the true, right? I like to do muzzle velocity in supersonic because it's speed that's getting the bullet to the target at that point. Like BC is there. When you get into subsonic, your speed's dropping off so much, your muzzle velocity, you can't, like trying to adjust your muzzle velocity through super or subsonic. It's like it happens so much, like that curves math isn't going to work. Adjusting your BC matters more than your muzzle velocity at that point.
Okay.
And that's why I like doing muzzle velocity in supersonic than BC.
Can
you use BC throughout? Yes, you can. Yes, you can adjust your BC to make those hits. And your muzzle velocity, it could be dead wrong. Doesn't matter. The same goes the other way.
You were still very close.
Yep.
And the fact that you don't have a 0 ES, right? So it's obviously there's a variance.
There's going to be variance.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the whole reloading process too. How much is the variance in our reloading process going to affect the shot? Like we take so much. Look at what we're doing, and I get to hit. Like, what's the smallest target I'm going to shoot at in PRS? Sub-minute or a minute angle?
1 minute. Most of them are 2 minutes. Yeah, this is a small target for PRS at 1,089.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, again, hotter than hell. Now, did you get the speed on this? Yeah, you did.
Yep.
So that's another thing. That powder is pretty stable because you're getting 2850 in 77 degrees or 101 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Now here's the kicker, right?
Okay.
Let's go back to the chart, not the there, right there. So if we look at our average, 2852, 2853, 2856, 2854, that's telling us something there, right? So this is that argument that, well, is my muzzle velocity off or is my BC? Honestly, seeing those muzzle velocities and how consistent they've been once I did the final, my BC is probably off more than I could probably go back to I could probably just average these 4 muzzle velocities right here, use that muzzle velocity, shoot this again, or actually just put that muzzle velocity in and adjust my BC to where I get what it needs to be, like the same hold, which is 8.9, and I'll be more accurate.
So let's do that right now. 28, 52, 53, 56, 54. So 54, 56, that's 110.
It's going to be 28, 54.
200. Well, yes, forget it. 4, 6, 10, 13, 16. Yeah, 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So 2854. I'm going to go back to all this.
That's the tuner.
Yeah, I'm looking at the speeds. You're about 2840.
Like you look right here, average 2840.
Just going back through. $47, $46, $53, $51, $50, $56, $55, $54, $52. I mean, again, your speeds are pretty consistent throughout the whole test. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, look at like that. That's the fine powder test, right? So 2856. That's what I picked, 33.7.
Yeah.
So what's been consistent throughout is that, you know, I mean, my muzzle velocity probably is, right? Well, what would we say? Like, we average that out. It's probably 2854. It's but 9 feet different than what Trude came out, right?
But that just shows really good consistency.
It does.
The powder, like I said, I love that powder. That is my favorite powder.
I'm impressed with it. Like, you know, I mean, that's like you got to look at, like, talking about consistency, right? We're looking at everything that we're doing right here. What does this say about the reloading process? Well, that the resizing of the brass, the case prep, everything, there's some consistency going on in there. Like the process that we're using, how we prep. Like the only difference between you and I on how we do is I like to clean my brass. I like shiny brass. That's the only difference that we in our process. But I mean, everything else is the same.
Barrels get cleaned every time.
Every time.
And you know, there's your consistency, you know. But anyway, like you say, proof is in the pudding.
You know, so like getting back to like, hey, what do you use here? You know, like in the heat of the moment when I'm doing this, you know, the test was truing out the muzzle velocity. I trued out the muzzle velocity.
Right.
That's what I did.
Right.
Now, like going back and analyzing this deeper, and seeing the consistency in the muzzle velocity, what I should do is go back, and we just did it. My muzzle velocity is 2854.
Right.
And now I adjust my BC, you know, put the same weather, put the same density altitude in my ballistics program.
Right.
And say, you know, hey, this is what I was holding. Hey, this is my BC of 3. This was my muzzle velocity. I have all that information. Then change my muzzle velocity to 2854, and then change my BC until I get an 8.9 hold. And then I probably don't need to touch that again.
I mean, but even then, you're only off by a 10th.
Yep. I
mean, you still got to hit on a small target at 1,089. But yeah, obviously, you want to be as perfect as possible.
If like being this anal or perfect, what's it allow you to do in a competition?
Good points.
You know your ammo is going to hit. It is 100% on Jason. It's 100% on Erik at that point.
Yeah.
Am I calling? Have I got my atmospherics right? Do I have my winds right? In my fun, like, there's no doubt it ain't the ammo. It is. I can't sit there. Well, I mean, I can and I will. Oh, the ammo's fucked. But in my head,
the easiest thing.
In my head, like, there's no doubt about the ammo.
You got to blame the wind.
It's always the wind. But and then when you look at the process, how easy was it when we were having issues with the 284? It didn't take us long to correct those issues because the process is set up that way.
Right. Just follow the process.
And you know, I'm trying to think on why I did pick 8,000s below flush on the. Might have been.
Either way,
I will have to look at this, and it honestly, it might have been the correlation to, because the width and the height, like was almost identical, and it's just, maybe I was looking at like, well, that was pretty stable, because if you look at 3, 4, and 5, like they were tight, but there was the variance between the two was kind of huge. But I do know that I can bounce between the two if I need to. But
just go to 4 and be done with it. Anyway, well, there you have it.
That's the
That's the
647.
full. And now, I mean, now it's time to have fun with it.
Oh, definitely.
Just maintain it. Maintain, clean the barrel.
Yeah.
Maintain. I mean, that thing hammers. Now you're waiting on your new chassis.
That's it.
But I mean,
yeah. On top of this, all this was done on a $450 chassis.
yeah.
This wasn't, like.
And never mind the other stuff. It's cost multiple thousands. But yeah, the chassis. Yeah. Now, chassis, I think once you have a good one, okay, back it up, stable, something
Yeah.
that it becomes preferences from there forward.
Oh, definitely.
It's like, it's the reason you don't want that chassis, right? You're like, it's great, but
There's better.
for PRS, well, define better. Is it going to give you better grouping ability?
Yes, definitely.
You think it'll shoot smaller just by changing the chassis?
Okay, so with that, I mean, there's you got to know what you're doing, right? I mean, you have to know your equipment. The Oryx chassis is awesome, but it's like I initially started shooting with the Psych bipod, and the way that bipod's designed on that chassis was too much movement. It was unstable.
Okay.
I went back to the Thunder Beast bipod,
Right.
where because of that chassis, it was just a more stable.
Well, yeah. Now
platform.
we're talking bipods, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, chassis,
the chassis flexes though,
right?
and then like the grip on it, it's a slant. It has a slant, and maybe the lower third of it.
Well, this is I guess this is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So you're shooting. What are you shooting at 1,089 4-inch groups?
4-inch groups.
You think if you had a better chassis shoot tighter than that?
What'd we shoot with the 6BR at? Because that was almost the same distance, right?
Yeah, but it's my 6. I tuned
it. But still.
No.
What chassis that was with? What'd we shoot that?
That was a foundation.
That was the foundation, and we shot smaller groups than that, didn't we?
Throw yours in a foundation.
We could do that.
And see what happens.
Yep.
But anyway, I don't know, man. It's. I think once you're there, it becomes preference.
It is. It is because it becomes preference on do I feel comfortable around this, and there's little things with the Oryx where
you mentioned some things that don't fit you, right?
Yep.
But I'm just saying, if somebody wanted to build a budget rifle and say, look, the Oryx will get you.
It's freaking capable.
It'll get you there.
Hell yeah.
Now, we'd have to test it, but I'm not sure it'll get you. Dude, that's pretty impressive. 4 inches at 1,089 is very impressive.
Good.
I don't know that you can get any better just by changing chassis. Now, if we're shooting off a barricade, I think that's when the chassis starts to, or stock design or whatever you want to use. That's when it really starts to matter, because you're like, at that point you're like, I like this other chassis because it allows me an attachment point, or I can put this on, and allows me to mobilize easier. Or I like this other chassis for, you know what I mean? Because I can add weights, or I can whatever. I think at that point, that's when it becomes really a preference thing. I just think pure raw precision. It's hard, man. I don't know. It's 4 inches. You have to understand 4 inches is really freaking good.
I mean, it is. It's.
That's what she said.
It's. and I mean, people downplay that. This is what she said. Size matters. Size matters.
4 inches. Anyway,
preference, shooter comfort, shooter preference is huge.
It is.
On being comfortable behind the gun can help.
Yes, but
needs more.
It's a 4-inch freaking group, man. And anyway, obviously you prefer a different one. That's fine. Change it. That's the ultimate goal, right? You want it to fit you, and you want to be very comfortable when you shoot it, and you don't want to have any excuses.
Absolutely.
So what are you going to put it in?
Well, right now I'm going to go freaking seat some primers at 4 throw it back in the Oryx and reshoot. There's a couple things we discuss, right? So we can go back to the initial powder charge, and then do the primer.
Do the primer first.
Primer seeding depth test there, see if that changes, and then redo the fine powder test. Right. Actually, I think we're going to do that.
Yeah,
we'll do that, and then based off that, then
Yeah, see if that changes. I think that's going to be the interesting experiment. Because people always ask me, at what point do you do the primer seeding depth? I'm like, I always do it after because, and see, this goes back to experience.
It does.
Like I don't ever, like I told you, I don't ever see the flush. And you saw, like, yours looked okay, but it wasn't.
Oh,
I already have an experience as to where more or less to seed it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I start my full load.
And I mean, I want, the viewers to understand why I did that, because we were asked on the forums.
Right. Yeah, but what I'm getting at is when I say I do it after the fact, is because I already have a pretty good idea of where I'm going to end up. Stuff, in the past, what has worked the best, right?
Yep.
I had a funny story. Somebody sent me a PM or DM. What do they call them nowadays? DM.
Yeah, private message or direct message.
We used to call them private message, but the other day I said PM, and my daughter started laughing at me. He goes, it's called DM, Dad. Anyway, and he said, since I don't know, he worded it like, since you started doing primer seeding depth tests recently, have you found? And I just said, I like how you assume that I just started doing it recently. He goes, well, it's stuff that we've used for a long time, but it's just one of those hush hush things.
Yep.
In the competition world, and trust me, in the competition world, it's not even discussed.
Yeah. Well, here's a different thing. I just popped back up into my head that I think with. What's the size of the flash hole for small rifle primers? Is it the same as large rifle primers?
No.
Alpha brass it is.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. I guess we got to check Lapua.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, how did that affect the test? Would it, because, I can't remember, we haven't done a primer seeding depth test on your 647 with Lapua brass, have we?
I don't think so. Not that I remember.
How would that change? What if, because I believe
the best thing would be to do a test on yours. Same rifle, just change the brass.
Just change the brass.
Now I'm running 100 feet per second faster.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I can load. We have your brass. We have rounds loaded with your, but.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think that's a fair test. That you'd have to kind of do. Well, first we just need to measure.
Yeah.
And see if they're the same or different.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's how much did that, because they're like comparing, and I don't know if this is a fair comparison because they're two different cartridges, but looking at just the differences in the 6BR primer sheeting depth test, there was drastic changes in groups. And then looking at this one, not subtle, very subtle, but the flash holes on the, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that flash holes on alpha munitions are, large rifle to small, they're the same size, because I don't change, like when my decapper, I don't change. I have one universal, I can't decap Lapua brass small rifle primer on my decapper because the flash hole's smaller.
I'd have to look at that. I mean, I want to say that they are smaller,
But this gets back to, like, when do we do the primer seeding depth test? Because, the initial test, we're looking for that good flat node.
So this is a discussion, right? It's like, okay, do it before primer, before the final powder test, right?
Right.
Okay. That means it's done after seeding depth test? And then what is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for group size, or are you looking for low ES? I just haven't seen a primer seeding depth to really affect primer or what do you call it, ES that much.
Right. But I mean, it's not significant. Like we've seen changes, we can see the changes. That,
Yeah,
like, but we're already at a low ES.
I know, but you can not change anything and shoot 8 different groups, and you're still going to see changes.
Absolutely.
That's my point. Yeah. You know, what is it doing? However, I have seen it time and time again affect the group size, and that stays consistent.
And absolutely, and so, well, I mean that answers the question, because I mean, like, why are we tuning the ignition system for group size? We're not tuning it like primer depth. We're not tuning it for better numbers. We're tuning it for better group size, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so then we do it after the final, how we've been doing it.
Yeah, but like I said, I think we do it this. Well, it's still worth doing the experiment, but I think if anything, I'm gonna continue doing it after the fact. However, you know, I'm always gonna be crushing or below contact with the bottom about 2000s. That's usually where I like to start. You know, I just want to make sure it's in there, so that I don't have any. You know, I don't want that primer to move.
Yep, definitely.
But anyway, all right. Anything else?
No.
What's in the horizon?
Well, we're gonna retest some stuff. Guess I gotta throw it back in the Oryx for this test to keep everything the same. Yay.
Anyway.
But no, I mean, wait for this chassis for this gun, and like now go proof it in competition. That's what we're gonna do.
Yep. Yes, sir. All right. That's all we have. Thank you for joining us, and
keep them
centered.